Of Lifeforce, which received not only a severe battering against Cocoon but also critical scorn and near commercial indifference. Lifeforce has since become a bit of a cult favourite after it was released on VHS, mainly because you could hit the pause button during the nudie bits. But the true legacy of the film is that its massive financial failure helped doom the futures of both Cannon Films and also Tobe Hooper. After his 3-film deal with Cannon had ended, Hooper continued to make features, work steadily in television. He's one of the original 10 masters of horror, contributing 2 stories across both series, and he's rightly regarded as one of the pioneers of the modern horror genre. Really people talk about masters of horror. Masters of Horror, the original sort of Masters of Horror, was, I can't remember who started it, but it was a group of friends, Tobe Hooper, John Landis, John Carpenter, Guillermo del Toro, and a few others.
So a who's who of horror movie-making talents.
Just getting together, going to a restaurant, and having a lovely meal with friends and just talking. And apparently the name Masters of Horror came from, I think on the next table, somebody was having their birthday party or something like that, and they were noticing who was there and what have you. They were obviously throwing pounds. There was people that were there, and Guillermo del Toro, a card was passed around or something like that, and Guillermo del Toro had written down or had said to the person, "Happy birthday from the Masters of Horror," which is a lovely thing, to be honest with you. And so from that, the germ of the idea happened that over the course of 2 television series, each director would produce a story, and Tobe Hooper produced 2. Over 1 for each series, and the group was open to new people. Dario Argento came in, and various other people came in as well. Really well regarded 2 TV series. Some of the horror in it's absolutely brilliant. It's all within kind of the types of stories that they did. The John Carpenter one's really good.
And he certainly does deserve to be regarded in that sort of legendary status, does Tobe Hooper. Now, unfortunately, he passed away last year, August 26, 2017, at the age of 74. Poor old Tobe didn't even get a mention this year in the Oscars video package that they do for the sort of in memoriam. But fans of his work certainly noticed, and they took to Twitter and other sort of social media to voice their outrage. So even though the Academy Film Awards sort of forgot about him,
we certainly didn't.
Hooper's fans certainly didn't, and he'll certainly be well remembered as one of the pioneers of the modern horror genre.
Lifeforce, though, owes a large debt to the works of Nigel Kneale. For those that don't know, Kneale was a British television and radio writer. He was the first writer to realise that, as a writer, he could do a lot more on television than radio, especially at the time when most writers on staff and freelance within the BBC saw television as inferior to radio. So this is kind of like the back end of the 1940s going into the 1950s. In a very real sense, Kneale is the father of modern television science fiction in the UK. He's one of the pioneers of TV drama, full stop. Without Kneale, we would not have Doctor Who, we would not have Blake Seven. He is that important of a writer. And it all started with Quatermass. Between 1953 and 1959, 3 Quatermass series were produced. The first, the Quatermass Experiment, told of Britain's first manned spaceflight spearheaded by the British Experimental Rocket Group, headed by Professor Bernard Quatermass. 3 astronauts go into space, only 1 makes it back, and he is not alone. Even from that very brief description, you can see parallels between the Quatermass Experiment and Lifeforce, even down to the climax of both stories. The Quatermass Experiment ends at Westminster Abbey, Lifeforce ends at St Paul's. The film version of Quatermass and the Pit is really the blueprint for Hooper's final scenes in Lifeforce, of a London in the middle of Armageddon, its people going mad, beating each other up and looting the capital.
Have England been knocked out of the World Cup again? Lifeforce takes the idea of Quatermass and the pit and cranks it up by several notches, increasing the amount of violence and destruction and the sexually powerful allure of the invading alien forces. But at a time when the AIDS hysteria was approaching its height, the idea of a sexually transmitted plague certainly offered ample opportunity to use in a horror movie.
Although probably not quite as batshit insane as the one in this offering.
So,
Yes.
we have to go to that question. What have we watched here?
Yes.
I mean, it's one thing that Tobe Hooper was impressed by was how seriously the mostly British cast took it. I mean,
Yeah.
some people would probably look at this material and go, this is absolutely ridiculous, I'm not going to take it seriously.
But I think is that due to the fact that I don't think that this is. I don't think this means that sort of English actors take the craft and their story more seriously, or they're more professional, or whatever. I don't think it's down to that. I do think it is down to, I think, the rich sort of back catalogue of Hammer films, Hammer horror films. When you look at Hammer horror films now, even probably sort of back when they were being released, they are utterly insane. But if you can see sort of the likes of Sir Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing taking sort of their roles as Dracula and Van Helsing and Frankenstein and what have you seriously, then there is that. But what we have actually watched is genuinely a really good piece of science fiction horror.
Well, to be honest, it's the highest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes that we've reviewed so far. Zardos only got 45%,
Yeah.
which I thought was
Overly high.
Casino Royale scored 28%,
Which surprised me they actually got 28%.
and this film scored 62%, so it's actually the highest rated film that we've looked at on the show so far, and possibly the highest rated canon film as well.
I mean, if you have a look at it as well, I mean, we're talking sort of 1980 science fiction horror. If we add in, if we go sort of a year either way, a year into the 70s, into 1979. 1979 we had Alien. We had John Carpenter's The Thing in 1982.
Yes.
We have this in 1985. We could probably sort of include The Terminator in that as well.
Yes.
So we're talking about some really good science fiction films. Science fiction horror films, yes, but really good science fiction films. Why did this one get the battering though? Because I don't think it looks massively dated.
No, I mean special effects in particular, like with the zombies, the one that sits up, and
the
moves
physical
around.
effects.
The person who did that, Kenny Dykstra. I mean, obviously people remember Yoda. I bet you've actually got a picture there. People remember Yoda, but Kenny Dykstra actually said that is the best work that he ever did.
Now, is this so this picture here? If you can see it, that's fine. This is the zombie. This is the physical effects, because obviously there was CGI was not as prevalent at the time. But looking at that, is that any different from what Stan Winston did? For
No.
Probably more for The Thing.
Yes, with the
pneumatics and what have you.
tentacles.
So, that's physical effects done brilliantly, and that's why it's always better to act. If you actually have the physical effect there as you're acting, you have something to act against.
Well, that's it. You're not looking at a tennis ball on a bit of a stick and saying, right, act towards that.
Yeah,
you see something like that, you walk onto a film set and say, right, you've got to interact with that. It's like, fucking hell. You don't need to do that much acting. This thing looks bloody scary.
It's like when William Friedkin made The Exorcist. Physical effects all done there in one room. I don't want to do this unless I can actually do it. If you think about Alien, we've talked about Alien, we'll talk a little bit more about Alien. The rest of the cast weren't told what was going to happen to John Hurt, and John Hurt only found out on that morning when he was getting sorted out for the chest burster and what have you.
That must have been an interesting morning. So, what's going to happen to me? Oh, well, basically, John.
Right, John. What we're going to do here is, so when the rest of the cast is reacting to that, they are reacting to it live in real time. They didn't know that it was happening. and it's like that. It is genuinely a very, very, very good film, and I can never understand why it got the panning that it did. I mean, I can and I can't.
It is crazy at times, and you sort of watch this, and it is one of those films where when it finishes, it's like, whoa, what have I just watched there? And again, being released at the same time as Cocoon and being out at the same time as The Goonies and Rambo probably didn't do it a right lot of favours. But the people that's in the film, they're giving it all. I mean, Peter Firth as Colin Kane, he's absolutely acting his socks off. He's probably better known after being in the TV show Spooks. Steve Railsback, he'd previously been Charlie Manson in a movie, so this was like his first chance to sort of appear in a science fiction film. So he's absolutely relishing it. He's like the one American in all these British actors, but he
certainly gives him it all, and he's actually a really good actor.
But the fact that he was rolling around with Matilda May, and I mean, he was obviously very professional about the whole thing.
Oh yes,
Matilda May, I cannot praise this young lady enough. She was only 19 at the time. She couldn't speak English. She's actually French. She didn't really want to do the nudity scenes. Again, this is something else that came from the insane man that is Mahanam Golan, who said, I want the space vampire lady to be naked throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Hundreds of women auditioned for the part, but didn't want to do it because of the excessive amount of nudity. Matilda May was eventually convinced by her agent that this would be a big break for her.
It wasn't.
It
really wasn't.
I mean, she still has a bigger success over in France. So Matilda May had a background in ballet, which came in very useful for this because it makes her come across. She's obviously this beautiful naked woman walking around, but the way that she walks around, the whole body language makes you sort of realise, hang on, there's something not quite right.
Something otherworldly
about this woman.
Yeah.
She comes across as like a female Terminator. She's like beautiful, but somewhat inhuman. And as I said, she didn't speak English at all, but she had a lot of people on set who probably felt sorry for her because she spent most of the time naked, who would help her speak English. And by the end of the film, she could speak English quite well.
I think that there would be, because it was set in Britain, obviously British cast and everything. I think they would genuinely look after her. I sincerely hope that this was the case, but.
A young 19-year-old girl, naked for most of the thing.
Can't speak English.
It's like, look, I feel sorry for her. Let's look after her.
And again, I think we've touched upon this probably more so in Zardoz, and we probably made light of it in Zardoz. We're not going to make light of it here. This would never happen now.
Not a chance.
Never happen.
Not a chance. You'd probably have it where she was wearing like an all-body suit that was made to look like she was naked, like Mystique in the recent X-Men movies, but never walking around, boobs out, pubic hair clearly on display.
Absolutely,
not a chance.
Never. Not in a major Hollywood movie, because despite what we may say about canon, they were seen as global players, basically within movies.
This certainly won't be the last time that Matilda May would have her boobs out on display. Though I've seen in the French film The Tit and the Moon, which is about a little boy that falls in love with a tit and goes off to sort of find a tit of his own.
We're never reviewing that film.
Which is a film that could only be made in France.
We're never reviewing that film, David. Not doing it.
Speaking of other films that we're probably never ever going to touch,
No.
Mahanam Golan.
No.
You see, Mahanam Golan was content not to be just a producer, he wanted to be a director as well.
Oh, well, he didn't just want to be a director. He was a director. He was at the time more known as a director in his native Israel.
Yeah.
He directed Delta Force.
Yes, one of the Chuck Norris movies.
And he went on to direct other films as well, none of which we are not, under any circumstances, ever doing a review of the Apple. We are not doing it.
Just to give you an idea of how bad this is, the Apple...
Oh no, don't you dare put a clip of the Apple in this review. bastard.
So clearly the apple is a musical of some kind.
It's a musical of the story of creation of Adam and Eve.
That's right, but turned into some other thing that's going off. Now then, the audience at the sort of test screening were given the soundtrack, vinyl soundtrack, as a free gift upon going into the cinema. The film was so bad, the audience actually threw the soundtrack at the screen, damaging it as a result.
However, getting back to Lifeforce and Canon.
So, it's a film that starts off, let's just bring it up here.
Yep.
So it starts off as a sci-fi movie about aliens.
Yes.
Then it becomes a seductive vampire movie.
Yes.
By the end of the running time, it's turned into a fucking zombie apocalypse film. And then at some point when they're trying to find out where the Space Lady Vampire is, it's almost like a detective crime thriller.
It does actually cross quite a lot of genres, really.
Yeah. It's all over the place, is this?
But it's still sort of... I hate to say this, but it's still kind of logical for the story.
It still does make sense. It still does make sense.
It still does make sense, which, considering sort of the previous film that we reviewed, was Casino Royale and also Zardos, none of those made sense. And we're not coherent in any way, shape or form. Put that apple down. We are not doing the apple. Getting this out there, widely available from Lifeforce. He's on the streaming service.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. What we've shown you here, this is the Arrow release of Lifeforce. Once again, Arrow knocking it out of the park with this one. This is the UK version.
Well, I think it contains both cuts, doesn't it?
It does. Oh yes, there's an international and a theatrical cut.
Now, the international version is on for sort of 2 hours, which is absolutely fantastic, and it features the aforementioned soundtrack with the London Symphony Orchestra.
Yes.
And Golan and Globus decided that film, at 2 hours long, was far too much for an American audience, so it was chopped down to an hour and a half. A lot of the stuff with the Churchill at the beginning was cut out or condensed down, so it was almost like we're like rushing to get to the
plot, basically.
And they brought in, even though they already had Harry Manfredi doing the soundtrack bit, they then brought in Michael Kamen in as well.
Yes.
To sort of do some bits. Now, Kamen's got much more of a horror theme to it, subdued and much more creepy and spooky, much more horror-based. And when you've got the two of them trying to sort of bounce off each other, it's such a massive change in pitch that it doesn't really work. So if you've only ever seen the US theatrical cut, it is the international version that you do need to check out.
Yeah. And I think, with that...
To the pub.
I'm going to hit him now. So, Zardos will give 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. With
Zardos.
Casino Royale, you somewhat controversially gave it the Northwest thumb. Cumbria represents, and I gave it a thumbs up because it made me laugh.
Yeah.
So I cannot give Lifeforce a thumbs up. I mean, it scored higher on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And it has to be argued, out of the 3 films we've watched so far, Lifeforce is the best one out of the 3.
Yes.
It's still insane, it's still bonkers, which kind of sort of follows the theme that we've been covering here on the show.
Basically, we review bonkers films that nobody else likes, and only we like them, to be honest with you.
Crazy films for crazy people. All the credit in the world goes to the cast and crew. They obviously got on well with each other. Even years later, Patrick Stewart says that Tobe Hooper was one of his favourite directors to work with. And they all looked after Matilda May, they looked after the poor lass, they taught her how to speak English.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you would, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? I just want to like put a coat round her and make her a cup of tea and whatever.
Yeah, exactly, and just say, don't worry about it, it'll be fine, we'll get through this, it'll be fine. The premise of it is fantastic. It is an old premise, to be fair. You know, alien invasion, you know, we go to space, we bring something back that's not necessarily a good thing. You know, there are the links, the homages to Quatermass, and probably a thousand other science fiction tropes in there as well as the zombies, the vampires, and the various other bits and pieces as well.
There's also a few comparisons to the new Mummy film with Tom Cruise, isn't it, in which they find a woman, you know, of unusual origin, bring it back to London,
because of course that's a great idea,
and then all hell breaks loose, and it's up to our hero, who has that strange spiritual connection to the female character.
That's very good.
That has to save the day.
However,
given the choice though between watching this new Mummy film and watching Lifeforce, I would rather watch Lifeforce.
Same here. Because apparently, then you don't have Russell Crowe murdering an English accent and
Or Tom Cruise just being
Tom Cruise.
Fucking hell. Give me Brendan Fraser any day.
I have to give this a thumbs up. I'm sorry, I have to give it a thumbs up. I like it. I really genuinely like it. And I think sort of in the main review we did mention sort of aliens. We mentioned John Carpenter's The Thing. I think we mentioned Terminator as well. It fits in very, very well with that science fiction horror genre.
Yeah, I mean,
probably more in particular with Alien and The Thing, to be honest with you, than the Terminator.
you can see how far special effects have come, both
Yes.
both computer special effects and practical special effects.
Yes.
You can see how far they've come along in the 80s.
But looking at it now, I think, okay, I can see why this probably didn't perform as well, or why it wasn't as well regarded. But actually, when you look at what's on the screen and what you're watching and the story of it, I think it's certainly probably the most coherent plotline that we've actually reviewed so far.
It is very much a lost classic, and it is definitely worth picking up on the Blu-ray or even just sort of streaming it on Netflix. Give it a go. It really...
So the Blu-ray that was the Arrow release. If you are based in the UK, there is a couple of extras on that don't exist on the disc in other territories and what have you. So please try and track that down.
Pick up the Arrow version, yeah.
The Arrow version.
They should be paying us for saying this.
Well, they really should.
Arrow, get in touch. Please. Social media stuff's at the end of the video.
Yeah, you know.
Pay me. and him as well.
Just give me free DVD. Just give me free Blu-rays.
It just pays in Blu-rays, yeah.
Blu-rays. I mean, that'll be great.
Shameless plug.
I think we've done it twice now. We would have done it 3 times, but you haven't done a Casino Royale one. Do a Casino Royale one. We'll go back. We'll do an insert into the original review where we plug that.
We've come to the same pub for the last 3
true.
videos.
They should be paying us.
They should be paying us, yeah. Right.
This is nice, by the way.
This is very nice. Right, okay, well, you've given it a thumbs up.
I'm giving it a thumbs up.
I have to do the same because
Really,
I
genuinely do.
gave Casino Royale a thumbs up, and it would be sacrilege if I didn't give this a thumbs up as well.
It would.
So there we go. There's our 2 thumbs up there
thumbs up time.
for Lifeforce. So
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to be reviewing next. We've got lots of ideas that we keep sort of shooting back and forth.
Yeah.
But stay subscribed to this channel. Follow the Facebook and the Twitter feeds, and you'll be able to sort of keep updated with what's going on. But until next time,
this will be going. You know, you'll be sort of putting out sort of
updates
or warnings when this goes live. Small warnings, to be honest with you.
But until next time, I am the Big Daddy D.
I am forever Luke Murphy.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, everybody.
And we will see you for the next episode of We Need to Talk About... ... Goodbye.
Cue music from the Apple.
Magic apple, mystery apple, take a little ride. Let me be your guide through the apple paradise. Juju apple, voodoo apple, take a little bite. Spend a splendid night in our garden of delights. It's a natural desire. Meet an actual vampire. Let the apple set your soul on fire.